Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of our new show, Dialogues from the President's Corner. Here I am today with Dr. Lawrence Czarda, President of Greensboro College. How are you doing today, Dr. Czarda?
Doing well. How are you, Matthew? Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. It's nice having this nice fall day. It feels great outside.
It is beautiful outside. A little rain, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. So this series will explore different branches and aspects and departments of Greensboro College with conversations directed by Dr. Czarda. And with this being our first episode, we kind of wanted to talk a little bit, focus on Dr. Czarda, having been president now at Greensboro College for 12 and a half years. So we're going to want to learn more about him and his background. So do you want to talk a little bit about like where you're from and your background and your education?
Sure, happy to. Any college president loves to talk about themselves, so I'll take that offer. I was born and raised outside New York City in metropolitan New Jersey, about 30 miles straight west of the city. I am a first-generation American. My parents are from Hungary. They were Hungarian immigrants. Both lived in New York City, kind of the typical Ellis Island, settled in the Bronx or Harlem or wherever they ended up. They moved a couple times. I have three sisters, no brothers. After my father was out of the service after World War II, my parents built a house, and at the time it was the country. And today it's very much a part of metropolitan New York City. That changed as I was growing up. My parents were adamant that we were all going to go to college. That's part of the American dream, and so that was not an option. But for me, the difference was almost all of my family went to Rutgers. The State University of New Jersey is kind of like going to UNCG if you're from here, or maybe NC State. But instinctively, my family knew, I think I knew, that I needed a different environment. And I ended up going to Bridgewater College in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, which is a small, private, faith-related liberal arts college, a la Greensboro College, very similar, but not in a city. So I went to Bridgewater College. I received a bachelor's degree in history and political science, was certified to teach in Virginia and New Jersey at the high school level. Kind of instinctively knew that was not going to be my long-term path. So I ended up getting a master's degree in public administration from American University in Washington, D.C., and then spent a long time in Northern Virginia, both in municipal government and county finance, and then at George Mason University. I was there for 27 years, and that's where I earned my doctorate, and many of my family have gone. So in a snapshot, that's who I am. But I would have to mention in terms of who I am, my wife, Carolyn, who is very well known on campus, and I are both widowed, and we have a blended family, a very large blended family, 7 adult children, various different daughters, sons-in-laws, and 12 grandchildren. And that's very much a faction of who I am. But I really feel coming to Greensboro College 12 and a half years ago, this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life.
That's wonderful. And that's so interesting to hear. Because I know we've talked in the hall about, because you said where you're from, and I'm originally from New Rochelle, and just seeing that kind of connection. So that's really interesting. Since you came from George Mason, like you just said, and now you're at Greensboro College, can you talk about like the process of how one actually becomes a college president? Because that's not something probably like a lot of young people, a lot of kids are saying like, I'm going to go up to become a college president. So how does one actually do that?
Yeah, that never happened. I never had breakfast with my mom when I was 10 and said, I want to be a college president. That's, it's not the way it works. I found that early on, I realized that many of my family were in education, and that's not untypical for first-generation folks to go into public service. If I look at my broad family, firemen, policemen, teachers, that's what we did. Yeah. Not all of us. My father was a professional photographer, for example. But education and teaching was always something that we talked about in my family all the time. But as I said earlier, I realized after getting my teaching credentials at Bridgewater College, teaching at the high school level or below really wasn't the right fit for me. Mm-hmm. And I was always interested in higher education for a couple of reasons, being a student. But when I had the opportunity to join George Mason University, which is still today, but especially during my time there, was a very rapidly growing institution. Most people in North Carolina might not know that George Mason is by far the largest institution in Virginia and would be in North Carolina as well. It's 40,000 students. It's Research One, Division One athletics, multiple campuses overseas. So how you become a president is, I found early in my life, I was fortunate in finding out that, kind of quoting Romans in the Bible, the book of Romans, that you should find out, if you're a teacher, be a great teacher. If you're a preacher, be a great preacher. If you're an administrator, learn how to be a great administrator. And I was fortunate that very early in my career, I found out that my gift, if you will, is administration and leadership. I was the youngest school board chairman in the history of the county where I lived in Virginia. the youngest hospital board chairman, same circumstance. And again, I would say I was fortunate in realizing that what I'm supposed to do is organize people and put them in a position to succeed. Now, becoming a college president, there's a couple tracks that people talk about. One is the academic track, obviously, be a great academic. A second is be a great fundraiser. A third is be a really good administrator. Lately, you also see college presidents who are names. A former governor, a former senator. Senator Sasser is about to be named the president of the University of Florida, and he didn't come through the other tracks. He's a famous name. Yeah. So in my case, it was building on the administrative track, but while always teaching. I always teach whenever I can.
Okay. That's so much responsibility. That's like so many different departments, so many different areas. How do you relax after all that work?
I've learned one of the absolute keys to being successful as a college president, and some listening to podcasts may or may not know, that 12 and a half years is a long time to be a college president. The average is about 5 or 6 years. There are 36 private institutions in the state of North Carolina, and I am the third most senior of the presidents. Only 2 have been in their positions longer than me. I have learned, though, one of the absolute keys is to hire very good people, put them in the right position, and let them do their job. Give them what they need to succeed. Therefore, then the institution and the president will succeed.
That's great advice. When you're not working on campus, let's say like the perfect ideal fall weekend, what does that look like to you?
The Commanders beating the Giants.
Oh, here we go.
That's inside, folks. That's between Matthew and I. And that's not going to happen this year, by the way. Ideal fall weekend is a combination of a lot of housework. Now, that may sound mundane, but Carolyn, my wife, and I realized as we were getting to know each other, we're both nesters. It doesn't matter where we live, we're always going to be working on our nest. That's kind of who we are. So it would be a list of projects that we are going to pull off for the weekend, whatever that might be to improve our home. Being president of Greensboro College, I'm very committed to attending as many events as I possibly can. Can't get to them all, but whether it's swimming, volleyball, theater, music, lectures, whatever it might be, that's a very important part of the weekend. But there's also the matter of just personal relaxation. And I am very much a workout person. Most people who know me might look at me and say, well, that doesn't look like that. But I have to be vital. So a good weekend is a very active weekend.
Okay. I kind of have, my next question is kind of a combination of both personal and professional. Can you tell me something about yourself that wouldn't be on your resume or CV?
For about 5, maybe as long as 7 years, my outside passion, outside work was horses. I ran a hunter barn in the hunt country of Virginia. I have ridden with a hunt. The Old English Hunt kind of wasn't a member of it, but I've ridden with them. I did jousting, the little village where I lived down the country, did an annual jousting tournament when you're actually tied for third. And it's something I discovered when I was in my 20s. I did not grow up with horses. Yeah, they didn't have any horses in my neighborhood in New Jersey, I'll put it that way. But that was something that was very much a part of my life. I still love the idea of horses. I love being around horses, but most people would not know that.
Okay. So fencing's coming to Greensboro College soon, you think?
I'm not sure where we'd put the stable.
You just mentioned like some of your passions. So what would be following up on that? Like say some of your favorite movies or books or just television shows that you really enjoy watching, listening, reading to?
Yeah, I would say that in terms of music and art and reading and theater and TV, I'm very broad in my taste. But I will maintain to anyone who wants to listen to me that the most important movie ever made was The Wizard of Oz. Ever made. And the reason I say that is first color movie. We are in the year 2022, about to be 2023. The Wizard of Oz is about 80 years old. If you walk out and ask any student, and if you say The Wicked Witch or Toto or Dorothy, they'll know who you're talking about.
That's interesting. I mean, Wizard of Oz is one of those movies I've never seen in full. I've always passed by it whenever it's on TBS on a rewind, so I have to watch that one now.
And multiple Broadway plays from The Wiz, which was the African-American version, to Wicked, which was just at the Tanger Center. Now, there's many other movies I think are just incredible movies. The Shawshank Redemption, Dances with Wolves. There's the kind of cotton candy movies that are not serious at all, but they're just so much fun, like Top Gun.
That's another one I have to add to my list. So away from like the art section, but just locally in Greensboro, what would be like your favorite restaurant?
Given the nature of not only the work I do, but also kind of the organizations I'm involved with, because I'm very involved with a lot of organizations locally. I almost hate to leave one out. I would say right now I'm probably most regular at the Undercurrent.
Okay.
But Lucky 32 is a bit of a favorite. There's a couple of ethnic restaurants I like quite a bit. Tomorrow night, before we go to the Triad Stage to see Donald Watkins, a Greensboro College alum, in a play at the Triad Stage, will be at Blue Denim, which is New Orleans food. My wife is a legitimate gourmet cook. I mean, she's really legitimately a gourmet cook and very much a student of food. So we try a lot of different restaurants.
Oh, that's so many things I need to add to this list. So many things I need to do this weekend now.
And I also recommend Shell and SCO downtown. It's a young couple who just opened during the pandemic, and it's based on the man's grandparents' recipes, and everything is farm to table.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you, Dr. Czarda, for joining us today on this first episode. Thank you all for listening and watching us, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.